Just to clarify, I did not catch Kennedy's win to open up the prelims and Brian Battle's win to open up the early prelims. And the rest of the card, I would say very good. I mean, we did have some legends. There were some question marks as to some of the decisions that were made by some of these fighters, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. Personally, overall, it was very exciting. There were a good amount of finishes. The ones that did go to a decision, like Joshua Van or Movsar and Aljo, those weren't that bad. I believe the Brian Battle fight that I missed, a lot of people were very upset with. So maybe it's a good thing I missed it, a split decision. Some people said that the decision, it should have gone the other way for Randy Brown. And then same for another decision on the main card, Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov. Personally, I do believe that Volkov won that fight. I didn't see the Randy Brown fight, so I couldn't tell you necessarily whether he got screwed or not. So I'm not going to start making comments about something I didn't watch personally. When it comes to the prelims, though, let's start this off. So Chase Hooper versus Clay Guida. Again, I didn't see the Kennedy fight. He knocked him out in the first round, and he's 2-0 in the heavyweight. Or ever since he went back to heavyweight, he's been 2-0. Kennedy cut from 240 back all the way down to 205 to try to make light heavyweight, which is absolutely absurd. He was even mentioning how during his fight cuts, whether he even had a nutritionist or not, the cut alone was kind of hurting his body to the point where he was just vomiting. It just was not a good cut for him. He was basically killing himself in the long run instead of just moving up to heavyweight like he is now, where he's now 2-0 since. And hopefully he can make a resurgence of his career ever since he's come from the Dana White's Contender Series. I believe he has the most fights out of Dana White's Contender Series because he was like on one of the first seasons. I could be wrong, but we'll move on to Chase Hooper versus Clay Guida. Clay Guida did lose via armbar submission to Chase Hooper in the first round. I don't remember exactly what promotion that they were on. Chase Hooper had already submitted Clay Guida a couple of years prior. Clay Guida, I think some people are saying you need to retire. You're 43. You did look like you were in tremendous shape. Chase Hooper has really come into his own. He said that he's been in the UFC for about 5 years, and his debut was in Vegas, the same arena as to where he just got this win against Clay Guida. 10 fights in the UFC. He feels everything is kind of coming full circle for him. When he was on the scale, I think he joined the UFC when he was 18, and this past weigh-in, he looked like a completely different person. He says he has a child now. He's been training with some of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world, like Mikey Musumeci, which then taught him that armbar submission against a Clay Guida. Obviously, he knows how to do an armbar, but he's talking about the triangle he made with his legs over Clay Guida. So there's less movement, apparently. He learned that from Mikey Musumeci when he was at the MSG card. Hopefully, we can continue to see his rise. They've been talking about him versus Jim Miller possibly next. He did make note, they don't pay you for the opponents that you fight that are ranked. They pay you what they pay you regardless. So he's not necessarily looking to move in the quickest of paces and just slowly move his way up. Now he is now 4-0 in the lightweight division. So good on him. This next one, I'm not going to lie to you. This decision I did watch, or it almost went to a decision because Michael Chiesa actually was able to submit him in the late of the third round or middle of the third round. Sorry. But Max Griffin, if I'm honest with you, he's looked very good in his last couple of fights, even though he's older, 39. He's aging out. I think 20-10 now. He did not remotely look like himself against Michael Chiesa. I will be honest with you. Every single fight I've seen him in the past, he didn't even look like remotely close to the Max Griffin that we knew. That's not necessarily a slight to Michael Chiesa. I'm sorry if it is, if you feel that way. You yourself know that you're a specialist. The people around you on the analyst team know that. Everyone knows when they watch you fight, your main objective is to get close, try to submit them. You've worked on your striking. You've grown at it. Don't get me wrong. You're not great. You're okay. You use it in a means to get to your opponent, which I think is the wrong way to go about it, but you got the job done. The job was finished for you, Michael Chiesa, and good on you getting another win in the win column. Tony Ferguson, Max Griffin. Now we can maybe slightly go up in the rankings. I'm not necessarily thinking that he's going to make a push of 170. He would have done that in his prime. I do think he does want to go out on a higher end than when he is remembered for against like Kevin Lee, etc. and kind of getting Darst himself. I'm not the biggest Michael Chiesa fan. I just think it was we got the wrong Max Griffin that night than a great Michael Chiesa. And congrats to you. Happy birthday. I think you're 38 now or 37. I can't recall what they said on the broadcast. The next fight, I did mention this. This was probably my favorite decision other than Shavkat and Ian, which we will get to in a minute, which was a fucking fantastic fight. We've seen two superstars, even though we knew that they were stars, they've had a special moment, where we saw Ian's stardom rise and Shavkat's rise, regardless of the results, which is very rare to see. We're going to talk about that in the main card later on, so no rush to that. I do want to give Joshua Vance his flowers, and I do want to give him his time here against Cody Durden, getting into the top 15. And flyweight has been very interesting. Now, John Anik made note that he could be pound for pound one of the most athletic fighters at flyweight, which I thought was very interesting, especially him not being ranked yet. He was a Fury FC champ. He's from Miramar or something like that. Miranin, or I don't know. I'm sure I mispronounced it, so my apologies. But I looked it up. It's like in Southeast Asia. Very interesting. That's where the comment came from with him and his flag, that apparently the UFC has to pass the flag through some sort of like third party, and then they're supposed to claim or get confirmation on whether it's a country or not, so then he can wear that flag. Hopefully he can rep his country and his nationality, his culture. I'm sure it means a lot to him, and it'd be really cool to see. I love seeing all that, like earlier or later on in the night where we saw Shavkat come out with the Kazakhstan flag. I'm a South Floridian. I'm basically a mutt of different things, mainly German and Italian. I'm cool with it. I love all different people. I love all different cultures. I love hearing about different cultures, different foods, different perspectives. It's fun, and you gotta love and respect it. Joshua Van, you definitely got a fan out of me. It's the first time I think I've seen you fight. Cody Durden, it is a very tough opponent, very durable, and you saw it that night. Even though the skill difference, he did have Joshua in a little bit of trouble early on in the first. He wasn't able to capitalize that in the second and the third. The advice from the corner was pretty bad because they were saying that he was down 2-0, and in my opinion, he wasn't. It was kind of like a 1-1 fight. And if he was able to hold Joshua Van down in the third, if he's able to have any control time to just not take that damage and get cooked on the feet like he was. And then I think Joshua Van had 160, 70 significant strikes, is like a ridiculous amount. Maybe he can break Max Holloway's record. Never know. He's only been in MMA apparently for 3 years. So the dude has a lot of talent and a lot of potential. He's only 23. We could see a potential Alex Pantoja, Josh Van matchup in the future. You never know where this kid could go. That's what I love watching the prelims for. It's what I love watching the Dana White's Contender Series for. I love seeing these guys come up from all over the place. Now, the main event of the prelims, Eric Anders, Chris Weidman. This is where it gets a little odd. To me, Chris Weidman, dude, you had him in the first round. If you're not just staying on top of him to try to have control time, and you start with the ground and pound, some elbows. I think it was DC that had a great comment on the broadcast. If you followed exactly what John Jones did in the first round, right? In terms of when you're in that position and you just rain down elbows on your opponent. Stipe came out of the second round not even remotely as the same guy. Why didn't you try to attempt to do that? Why didn't you attempt any ground and pound when you had the top position? To me, it doesn't make much sense, because the flip side of it was the next round, you jump for this guillotine and he just ground and pounds you until the last 10 seconds and then the fight's over. I never understood it. I'm not necessarily rushing for you to go retire. I do think you should retire because it's not necessarily worth putting your body, your health, and all of this on the line every week or every X amount of months. I feel like it was a fight you could have won. I don't want to say you're a low IQ fighter, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you put yourself in this position, not do anything with it, and then put yourself in a position for him to do exactly what you could have done in the last round? It just blows my fucking mind. Again, did not see Brian Battle to start open the prelims. So I did not catch the Brian Battle versus Randy Brown fight. So I'm not necessarily going to comment on it. I know a lot of people did not agree with the split decision of 29-28 for Brian Battle. Is what it is. I think a lot of people are upset with the judging, especially in Nevada, man, if you're going to be called the global fight capital of the world, you have to have a good commission. Like, oh my goodness, please fix that problem. Adelaide Bird, why are you still here? Okay, I remember your name from the Triple G Canelo fight, dude. Like, get the fuck out of here. Why are we still dealing with you, Nevada? Like, to me, even though I understand it, because as UFC, like if you are the brass and you have your own commission and you're dealing with the government and all this stuff, a lot of it could be put back on you, whether the refs, the injuries, etc. So I understand why they have a third party commission. They're fucking us up, man. They're fucking us up with these decisions. Whether it's Randy Brown, whether it's Alexander Volkov, shit, could go back plethora of fights through history. You fucked over a lot of people, is what it is. There's really not much I could do about it. But as a fan, I see both sides of it, where the UFC should step in, should have their own control over it, but the blowback and the backfire from that, it's almost like if they ran their own drug testing, even though I understand they don't really. Some people think the USADA shit's gone and the free drug sport's kind of bullshit, even though it's not bullshit in my opinion. I think it's actually pretty solid. But it would be the same thing. If they ran their drug testing, obviously they'd have a lot of blowback from that. Same with the commissions, a lot of blowback from that. Maybe if a ref ended a fight too early, they could be like, oh, they're trying to push this guy. So there's a lot of reason to do it, but there's a lot of reason to not do it if you're the UFC. And it fucks over guys like a Brian Battle, Alexander Volkov, or not Brian Battle, Randy Brown, sorry. But I'm not going to talk about the fight because I actually missed that one. But moving on, Movsar and Aljo, to me, it was close. I'm not happy that the last round, Aljamain Sterling just decided to have control time holding someone on the cage. To me, that's kind of stupid. If the UFC fighting championship, why are we worried about control time with no damage? That to me, control time, no damage, no submission attempt. It means that much. It means absolutely fucking zero to me. If you have control time with no damage, no attempt to advance, no attempt of submission, it means you are stalling. That's my opinion. Obviously, I don't fight. Obviously, I'm not Aljamain Sterling. I'm not in there with Movsar, okay? But bro, if you're trying to make a splash at 145 against an undefeated fighter, and it's kind of 1-1 with y'all, like, I'm not going to lie, even though it went to a decision and it's Movsar and Aljo, the wrestler versus wrestler stand-up battle, and then a bunch of scrambles. It was fun to watch until the last round where Aljamain Sterling just started to stall, started to hold him. I do agree with the 29-28 for Movsar because bro, we don't need Aljamain Sterling to be moving up in the division if this is what he's going to be doing against an undefeated prospect in a Movsar. Well, what if we get, right, let's just say Aljamain Sterling won. What if we had gotten Aljo versus Max, Aljo versus Ilya, Aljo versus Alex, any top? It's just kind of like, bro, I like you, Aljamain, but you are in the same position. We need some growth on the feet. I know you're the human backpack and all, and that's fun to watch to a certain point. But when you get a match like this and someone who's not going to allow you to do that so easy, you need to evolve past that. That's just how I see it. I do think that it was a good decision for Movsar. Got to give the refs or the judges for that one because I just shit on them in the last one. Vicente Luque did not let it go to the judges against Themba Gorimbo. Him and Vicente Luque, after he lost Gorimbo, a lot of people were talking shit. Now me, I do my best, okay? I do my best to watch as much as I can and try to like pay attention to as many interviews and all these little tidbits and all the drama. There's so many fighters. There's so much shit going on every week. You never really know. But apparently there's a story between him and Colby Covington, and Colby used to give him food every week, just like I guess Jorge did for Colby. And now the chain goes down to him and Themba, and like Themba started shitting on him, and Themba started getting like really confident and cocky. Apparently this is what the rumor, the fodder is online. From what I read, how true it is, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the man in real life. But what's interesting is the turn of events. Everyone saw him get dropped and choked out, and everyone not everyone, I should say, take that back. A good amount of people that I saw online were rooting for it. And I'm not necessarily against him or for Vicente Luque. I just thought it was very interesting that out of nowhere, that one was just interesting. I didn't expect the turn of events. the fans to turn on Themba like that. But maybe this is best for him. Maybe it's best. Now you had this test. I thought it was going to be the biggest test of his career, and obviously it was. Vicente Luque, is he done? I think a lot of people say he's washed. I don't personally say he's washed. I don't think he's championship material either. I think he's still in that 15, 10, not necessarily 5 range at 170, but those that are up and comers, like a Themba, great test. Vicente Luque definitely showed how old is he now? He's older, but how old? 33. Bro, I thought this dude was 36. Oh, he's 33. Okay, that's not even that bad. He just turned 33 in November too. That's not even that bad. How old is Themba? Themba's the same age. I did not know that. I thought Vicente was older. Great win for Vicente. I'm curious to see where he's going to land next for his matchup, because the top 10, top 15, it's still stacked. 170, 155, two of the most stacked divisions of all time. Great competition. I was very much hoping to see Nick Diaz back. Is what it is. We don't get him back in this card. Hopefully he can return in the future, even though the last 2 fights he was scheduled for, he did not make. But the main event for the prelims I thought was interesting. The main event, though, a lot was going on. Anthony Lionheart Smith, you lost one of your friends, one of your training partners, someone he was very close to last 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks ago. He lost someone. So obviously a lot of turmoil, a lot of emotion, a lot of things he's going through in his day-to-day, yet alone worrying about a fist fight in the UFC. Obviously, he was crying post-fight after he lost. In the first round, he was literally walking towards Anthony Reyes, and Reyes had said this in his post-fight, in his interview in the post-fight. He was literally like, punch me, hit me. I want to feel something. That's what Anthony was saying while he was walking towards Reyes. Obviously, going through a lot into this fight. Losing someone you're very close to is not easy to deal with, and go in against one of the top 205ers in the world and go and have a fist fight. There's a lot going on. He's questioning whether he's going to retire. He's not 100% about it yet. I do recommend retiring. You're not necessarily close to the belt. You did fight for the belt. You did lose. You have a great future as an analyst and at the desk. Do not risk your health any more than you need to. That's just not worth it. Anthony Reyes obviously wins TKO victory, elbows and punches in the second round. I don't think Anthony Smith was all there though. It's again, it just goes back to how you feel. Like going in, he said he didn't care about the win. He just wants to feel something. He wants to break something. When you're thinking like that, you're obviously, I automatically was like, this dude's going to lose. I hate to say it, but if you have that mindset, you're not going to do well. It's just facts, man. You're getting emotional in there. You can't. You got to be very strategic and locked in. To open up the main card, Do Ho Choi, Nate the Train Landwehr. I love that, man. Sad to see you get knocked out. TKO elbows in the third round. Very fun, very exciting fight to open up the main card. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Do Ho Choi. Great bout to open up the main card. I think it very much interested a lot of people, and it kept us excited for the rest of the main card. After that, Bryce Mitchell, against Kron Gracie, had a very disgusting finish. Kron Gracie pulled guard on top, which, who was it? What Gracie? I can't remember what Gracie tweeted it, and he's like, you don't do that in MMA ever. Anyways, he posted his elbow on top of Kron's face while he's pulling guard while Bryce is standing, and then slams him to the ground, and his elbow bounces off of his head as his head bounces off of the canvas, and he gets a finish. It's very, very disgusting. You definitely learned something there, Kron. Tough bout for you to go in there against a Bryce Mitchell. You are now 5-3. I would assume that the UFC is probably going to move on from you as well, especially with your last bout on the main card, and you're kind of scooting your butt up to just grapple, and you yourself had talked about that being a really bad game plan. And going against Bryce Mitchell, bro, Bryce Mitchell is a top 15. You're not going to be able to do that against a Bryce Mitchell. He's very much capable to combat your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he knocked you the fuck out. Cyril Gane, Alexander Volkov. Split decision, very, very controversial. Cyril Gane did mention that after, 5 months of training, the first kick he threw in the first round, he broke his toe, which absolutely ruined the next 2 rounds for him. When you break your toe, obviously, it's very difficult to continue. And it wasn't as broken as like a John Jones versus Chael Sonnen, when he found out post fight after he won. It was fucking like across his other toes like that. Very disgusting. It wasn't to that extent, but it was able to hinder him from being able to continue the next 2 rounds and like really be effective the way he wanted to with his kicks. I do actually want to bring this up. I almost forgot. Ciryl Gane in those grappling exchanges looked tremendous. When he was actually able to get up from off of his back fundamentally, he learned so much and he's grown so much from his last fight against John Jones. You can tell that I think it was like a year, 6-8 months layoff since, rough amount of time. I'm not exact sure, but he was doing a movie. He was training his ass off his grappling. You got to give it to him because his 2 losses, Francis out wrestled him, and then John Jones completely. It was a front guillotine. Regardless, it was something you've seen him grow as advanced as he was in this fight. But ultimately, Alexander Volkov, to me, got the win. I think Dana White went up to him after the fight and even told him, hey, I think you got screwed by the judges, and they're going to kind of figure something out. And then the commission, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, came up to Dana and was kind of trying to have some sort of communication with why Adelaide Bird had thought maybe the second round or etc. could have gone to Ciryl. He just wasn't hearing it and having it. And I do agree with him. It should have gone 29-28 to Alexander Volkov, the co-main event. This is all what we wanted. I think people wanted the co-main event. Shavkat Rahman versus Ian Garry was the people's main event. And don't get me wrong, Alexander Pantoja and Kai Asakura, amazing main event, which we will talk about in just a minute. And the future for these two, the reason why it was so big was they were both undefeated up-and-comers, 2 challengers, 2 possible future champions. I believe that they both will be a champion at one point. Shavkat gets his shot first at Belal before Ian does, but that's not to say Ian won't actually get another shot if Shavkat becomes the champ. We'll see ultimately how things play out, but this was an early test for both of them. Apparently, Shavkat had made Ian tap out in training, and in training, Ian had admit, it's training, you're learning, you're getting better. That was also 2 years ago. So why would he be the same person? If you're holding on to what happened in practice, then you can keep that, because we're going to be fighting under the lights Saturday night. And we all just saw what happened. And Ian Garry, arguably, if this fight went on another couple of rounds, who knows? Who knows how close Ian Garry would have been able to have gotten a finish, because it seemed like Shavkat, well, not seemed. This was the first time that he's been able to go all 5 rounds. And this is the first time any opponent of his has made him not look like the boogeyman. He actually looked human in this bout. Ian Garry at one point had him beat up on the feet and almost in a position to tap him out. How insane is that? I don't think anyone gave him the flowers or even the possibility of going in there to do what he did on Saturday. Personally, if you watched it live with me with the live reaction, I talked about it the whole time, walking out, coming out. It felt like it was his time. It just felt right. The same time when Sean Strickland beat Israel Adesanya, it felt right. It just felt like this was his coming out party. And we did see, even though he lost, he did not lose. Like sometimes after a fight, when you do lose, you don't. Sometimes the fans and the people that watch appreciate and respect you a lot more than a loss. Okay. The future though, the future at 170, who is going to be facing Ian Garry next? Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley, Carlos Prates is actually in the shoot to box camp over there in Brazil, who trains with him and Charles Oliveira. And he's an up and coming 170er. I think he's been undefeated since he's joined the UFC. I could be wrong on that one, but Carlos Prates, dude, very exciting. He actually, I think, was given the opportunity to face Shavkat, but actually had to deny it because of the weight cut or something like that. I heard some sort of report about it. Very intriguing matchup for him and Ian Garry maybe in the future. We get a crazy fucking stand-up bout. But the top of 170, champion of Belal Muhammad coming off an injury. Now Shavkat gets his chance. Then what? Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, Gary, Colby. I mean, who else is at the top? I mean, Shavkat. Like, we need some movement. We need some movement. We need Usman. We need Leon. We need some people to face each other. Maybe we can get a Ian Machado Garry versus Leon Edwards. That would be very interesting. I know that they have drama from when Ian Machado Garry went over there and trained, and then Leon's coach had kicked him out because Leon was champion at the time and he didn't want him coming in here to learn from Leon. Some sort of drama according to both of them. Ian isn't necessarily upset by it. He took it as, I'm a threat to Leon. I would love to see that. Maybe we can get that drama, get a little bit more of the insight as to what happened in their training to find out what the true reality of all of this is, because someone's got to be lying in this story. Someone has to. Main event, Alexander Pantoja versus Kaya Sakura. I don't know if many people gave Kaya Sakura a lot of or believed in him at all to pull this off. I thought it was definitely a possibility, and I'm very happy to see that one of the things that I thought that could have given Alexander Pantoja some trouble, he actually went and attempted a flying knee. He threw the knee about 3 fucking times, landed every single time. He was very fast and quick on the feet. Being from 135, being able to cut down to 125 like that, being a bigger guy in the smaller division does give you those advantages. Now, it could also give him a disadvantage not being able to be the same guy he was at 135. But to him, he felt good. He didn't feel like the weight cut was that much of a problem because over in Ryzen, over in Japan, they kind of fight a little bit above what the weight class would be for the UFC. So it is what it is. He did look good. He looked the part. He looked fast. He looked there. The competition level here in the UFC is just completely different than Ryzen. And it is very much shown where Alexander Pantoja is still king of the throne at 125. And after that, I thought it was very interesting. He came out to call Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson out for a battle at 125 for the title. Now, personally, as a fan, of course, why would I not love to see that? That's one of the, that would be such a fan matchup right there, where we would be able to get a return of Demetrius Johnson. But Demetrius Johnson has already retired. He's already come out and stated, buddy, my last fight before I retired, I got offered $2 million and I turned it down. The YouTube money is coming in. I'm rich, bitch. He pulled a Dave Chappelle at the end. All right. Good on him. I do love that for him. Fuck us fans. Dude, I want it. I want it. I want it. Alex Pantoja, Demetrius Johnson, 4 title defenses in the UFC, 11 title defenses in the UFC, and 2 over in 1 championship. You telling me that story doesn't write itself? Come on now. He beats Kaya Sakura, the beast in the East, over from Ryzen, and he defends the championship. But not only defends the championship, it's the fact that they've gone through so many fighters. He's gone through every fighter in the top 5, beat him twice on his way to the championship, got the championship, beat them all again, and they had to get a guy from Ryzen just to compete. Alex Pantoja, Demetrius Johnson, I know it's not going to happen. I know Demetrius Johnson literally cut it down. He's been offered $2 million. Speaking about money, he was offered $2 million to come out of retirement, turned it down. That's how committed to retirement he is. I do love and respect it, because most of these fighters that do retire come out of retirement for that big check, which he very much deserves. Demetrius Johnson is, to me, an upstanding guy. Man to man, as a person, I actually love and respect and look up to him. Very, very solid guy. From what we've seen in the media as a fighter and just interviews, etc., very solid dude. Someone I would definitely look up to. Now, the performance of the night, Alexander Pantoja got one. Vicente Luque got one. Chase Hooper and Kennedy got one to open up the whole early prelim card. I'm very interested to see some of these future matchups for these winners, like a Shavkat. How does him and Belal go? Is he able to be fully healthy going into this fight when he does get his chance at the 170 belt? Or does Belal basically shut him down? Can he do what Ian Garry almost was able to against Shavkat? I don't know. I'm interested to see if the Nomad can get it done. Can the Kazakh Warrior become a champion? Not sure, but he's definitely got a shot. Ian Machado Garry did show he is human, which we do have to keep in mind. I'm very interested to see where he goes next, because you're coming off a loss, your first and only loss in your career, and you just got beat by the #1 contender. I want to see him versus Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, Ian Garry, make it happen, please. That's what we need.